Welcome back F11 members to the Fundamentals of Post-Production video tutorials for issue 50, March 2016. This is part 2. In part 1 we looked at the pros and cons of merging this very high contrast image together to using Lightroom's merge to HDR function versus doing it manually. I discovered that using the merge to HDR gave a very noisy image in the shadows. So what I'm going to do now is I'm piecing together these images manually. In part 1 we made these 4 different versions of the image, ranging from the brightest, optimized for the shadow areas, to the darkest, optimized for the brightest areas of the sky. And now I'm going to put them together. So what I'm going to do first is take the brightest image and lay as layers on top of that the darker images, starting with this one here. This is the brightest, top right. So I'm going to select this one, bottom right, which has been optimized for the, excuse me, just hit the zoom button there accidentally. So I'm just going to select all of that image, Control A, and oh, wrong one. Select all, and now cut and paste it on top of, or copy and paste it. So go copy, and then select that image there, and paste on top of that image the slightly brighter picture. I'm now finished with this one, so I can close it. Otherwise you can start to get confused. So let's try and work with a nice orderly fashion. So I'm now going to lay on top of that another layer, and this is going to be this one here. So select all, I've already done that. Edit, copy, and again, paste it on top of this image here. Command V, paste it on top. OK, and now I can get rid of this image here, just close it down. And finally, the darkest picture, the sky image we're going to call it, again, select all, copy it, and then paste it on top of the others. Right, now let's get rid of that. Let's close that one down. Let's come to this. We have one image here, and if I bring my layers palette into the screen, I, by the way, work with 2 screens next to each other, so I can have my image on my main screen, and on my screen to my right I have all my tools and the gubbins. But I can't record what's on that second screen for this video, so I'm going to drag that palette into the frame, and there you see we have the layers. On the bottom here, first of all, starting at the top, the darkest layer. If I click that eye, the layer is still there, but I can't see it. It becomes invisible. And we see the layer underneath, which is a little bit brighter, been optimized for the rocks there. And now I'm going to click that off, and I have that layer again for the medium tone, the mid-tones in the image. Click that off, and we're left with just the bright layer there. So what I'm going to do now is just work on my layer masking so that we can see the bits of the layers we want to. Just give me 1 second to recall where we're going with this. Always a good thing to stop and logically consider what you're doing. Just don't wade in and hope to stumble across a solution. So now what I need to do is select this bit of the image of the layer that I want to see. Okay, so essentially what I want to do is select the area of the mask, to apply a mask so that I can see through this layer to the bright layer beneath. So I'm going to bring in my tools here. Okay, bring it over there. I'm going to use the lasso tool to make a selection, and I'm just going to select the darkest areas of the picture around about here to be able to see. Okay, that's that bit there. Can you see up here, top left, I have this panel selected here, which enables me to add to the selection. So I'm now going to make a second selection here for this dark bit of the image over here. I don't have to be too precise here. You can see how rough I'm being with this, because the beauty with layer masking is I can fine-tune this selection subsequently using the paint tool. Okay, so what I want to do is select inverse. Go up top, select inverse, so that, bear in mind, this is the second, this is the layer here, layer 1, has been optimized for the midtones in the water and the riverbank. I want to be able to see through that area of the layer that I've selected here on the left and the right to see the brighter layer underneath. So I've made this selection, I've inverted it so that I've selected the part of this layer now, layer 1, that I want to keep. And I'm now going to go to layer, mask, and reveal selection. Now there's one thing I forgot to do there, and that was feather the selection, and you can see what has happened here. You can see there's a hard edge to my selection. Just you see it down there, it looks horrible. So I'm just going to go back on my history, back a stage there, and remember to feather that selection. So if we're going to select, modify, feather, and I'm going to feather that selection with a radius of 200 pixels to make a soft edge. Okay, and now I'll go layer, mask, and reveal selection, and I get quite a natural looking edge to that selection. So what we have now is the two images combined for the darker and the midtones, but now I need to deal with this area of the image on the left, which is much too bright, which brings us to layer 2 here. If I click that on again, what I need to do is, now we can see it, I need to select the area of this particular layer that we want to see. So again, I'm going to use the lasso tool here, and looking at this bright area of rock around here, and the area of the sky as well. Although really we're only concerned with this area top left. Okay, so now again, if I apply a mask for that area I've selected, but first I need to feather it. So if we're going to select and modify and feather, normally I do this by actions again. I'm going to make for a wider feather selection there, selection of the feather, make it for a softer, more gradual transition. Click on OK, and now I go layer, mask, and reveal the selection. So there, what we're getting is quite a nice transition here from this area on the left through to the darker area. It looks natural. The picture's starting to come to me, I can get it, but still the sky is looking a bit burnt out and lacking in detail. So finally we come to the last layer, layer 3 here. And if I click on the eye, that shows us the layer in place. And again, I want to apply a layer mask, which will allow me to then see which bit of this layer we want to see. So again, excuse me, just have a drink of water. So, again, using the lasso tool, and I'm just going to select the area of the sky. Again, doing it fairly roughly, because with the feathering, I'm going to make a very soft edge anyways, and secondly, I can modify that selection using the paintbrush should I need to. Okay, so what I have there is the selection. Again, I'm going to feather it. I'm going to use one of my actions here this time. And there are, see, I've made all these actions here for things that I do often. And I'm going to feather this with a radius of 300 pixels there. Instead of having to go through the menus and find the commands, I can just do it with one click using this feather. And just by click on that play there, it's feathered that selection. Take that back out. Now I go layer, layer mask, and sorry, what have I done? Okay, so if I now go layer and layer mask, it's not letting me do it. And that's because I've got the wrong layer selected. So easy to get yourself confused with these layers. You think, why can't I do that? Always make sure that the right layer is selected. So select the right layer, go up to layer mask again, and now reveal selection. And there's the final layer for me, now pieced together. And I think you'll agree that's a pretty good job of merging. But of course I can fine tune it. And looking at this picture now, I'm thinking that I can take the layer that is layer 1 for the midtones here. And if I just zoom in on the image a bit here, let's move this out of the way. Over here. I'm looking at this area of the image, and I can just by painting, by adjusting this layer mask here, and I'm going to use the paintbrush here, click on the paintbrush there, adjust the size of my brush using the square brackets on my keyboard there. I go for something around about that. And what I want to do is just paint so that more of that mask is applied to some of this darker area along the riverbank. It will have the effect of revealing the brighter layer underneath and bringing up a bit of the detail in that area. But I have to be subtle, and so I'm going to put the opacity right down to about 15-ish% there. And now if I just make sure I'm painting in the right color, can you see on this layer mask here, what it's doing is showing the black where the layer is, the mask has been applied, and I want to add a bit more of the mask there. So if I just make sure I'm painting in black, and I'm not, I'm painting in white. So it actually, if I just go back on my history there, what I want to do, select again the mask there, and I want to make sure I'm painting in black to apply more of the mask to enable me to see through to the bright area beneath. So if I hit X on the keyboard there, you can see that black comes to the top now. And now if I paint along here, it starts to reveal a bit more detail. I'm going to whap the opacity right up high so you can see the effect. There. Can you see what I'm doing? That's revealing the brighter area beneath. That's too much, quite frankly. I think you always have to be subtle with this. I'm going to go back a touch and do that again, but with a much less opacity, and just build up the kind of the brightness that I want in this area of the picture with a few passes of the brush tool. Always remember that we need to create an image that not only is technically perfect in terms of the tonal range, but actually in terms of it looks believable as well. I'm now actually going to, looking at this area down here, there's almost too much detail there. It doesn't look quite too believable, and so there's an easy way of dealing with that. I now come over here, I hit X again on my keyboard. I'm now painting with white, and I'm just going to darken this area down a touch there. Can you see how flexible this layer masking is? We can be so super controlled with our layer masking. I think you could tinker with this till the cows come home, frankly. This has been quite a complex picture to do. Obviously, getting Lightroom to merge images using its in-house merge to HDR capability is a handy thing to have, but at times I think it's better to do it manually, and certainly with this image I haven't got the problems in the details of the noise that I had with the Lightroom merged image. And if I look in the shadow areas here, they're nice, they're clean, they're noiseless. So generally speaking, I'm quite pleased with this picture. Layer masking is a quite a complex thing to understand, but the more you do it, the more au fait you come with it. And I thought this was quite an interesting exercise to go through this month. Okay, thanks for that, and we'll see you back here next month for more fundamentals of post-production video tutorials.